All right. So on his way out, former president now Biden, in the last few seconds of his presidency, he pardoned 5 of his family members of J6, so Liz Cheney and those people, the police officers who testified at the J6 committee, and Dr. Anthony Fauci. I'm wondering, do you guys think this was a blatant admission of wrongdoing, or is he actually protecting them from a overzealous Trump DOJ?
Brad.
Charles.
Oh, me. I think it's different for different people. I think for most of those people, like I don't know, right? Like I think, okay. So Liz Cheney, all these other people, Fauci, I could see realistic reasons for why you would open up inquiries or why you would go and see if there are prosecutable offenses there. But like, if what is your family doing? Like, what is your family? There's something going on there. There's like, where there's smoke, there's fire there. The Liz Cheney thing could go either way, right? People could call it political prosecution, or there could be something there. But like, if your family needs pardons because of something that potentially may or may not have happened, then it probably happened. And I find that highly suspicious. That's the one that really sticks with me. It's like the entire Biden crime syndicate gets pardoned the last day. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Imagine him and his wife. Except for him and his wife, he didn't pardon them.
Well, I mean, who really goes in? I was about to say, who really goes after a former president?
Some people do.
But I think common, perception for years has been who goes after a former president and or their spouse. And he probably did not have much to do, like in terms of the organization of the crime. I don't believe it was him. I believe it was everybody around him. And so, but yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Something needs to be done about this pardon power.
We're going to get to that.
So God, I don't understand. I feel like I'm answering your question, but
that's fine. No, go. It was one of my questions.
Something needs to be done about this pardoning power. This can't stand. This is totally retarded. You can't do this. You can't just, Charles, I said the word. You're welcome. You can't just pardon people for crimes known and unknown for an indefinite amount of time. There's no possible way that was the intention of the pardon power. He can just, if you're going to pardon someone, you need to tell us what you're pardoning them for. What is their offense? What's going on here? You pardon Fauci. Why? Explain it to the American people like they took the vaccine to save their job, or they took the vaccine to see their family, or their kids to go to school, or they took the vaccine for a free fucking donut, right? Explain it to them like that, please. Yeah. Why are you pardoning him? What did he do?
Well, the argument obviously they're going to make is that they're just doing this because the weaponized Justice Department's going to come after them. That's what they're going to say.
Weaponize the Justice Department after them, but it's Donald Trump and he doesn't do that.
Yeah. Did you hear what Andrew Schultz said?
Don't do this. Like, how many times did we chant, lock her up, lock her up, lock her up? And then he got in office. That would be bad for the country. That's what the Republicans always say.
Yeah. Did you hear what Andrew Schultz said? He said, you pardon Dr. Anthony Fauci? What the fuck is in my arm?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what people should be asking. You can't, like, I can understand you pardon, a military, whatever, like somebody in the military, you send them to do some job and something fucks up and they do something they shouldn't have done, but it was all part of the job. I get, all right, you pardon it. It's not something that I get the logic behind that, but this is Hunter Biden and your family and Fauci and Milley. Yeah. Tell us about the Milley pardon. What the fuck? How many trillions of dollars did we spend on this dumb war on terror to only have like the worst possible Afghanistan withdrawal that we could possibly imagine?
Did he? Yeah. Was Hunter included in the pardons?
Yeah. Well, he got the first one.
Are you like dead or something? Like, what is that happened so long ago?
He pardoned him.
He pardoned Hunter Biden for all crimes known and
probably no. You know what? Now that you're thinking, yes.
2014.
Okay. Sorry. Brain fart. I remember that. For some reason, I kept envisioning the pardon he did to the family, and I was running through those names, and I didn't see it. But you're right. Okay, sorry.
The interesting thing about the Fauci one is the pardon goes back to 2014. Are you telling me they just sat there and pulled a number out of their butt and were like, well, 2014 sounds like a good time? It seems to me that that's a pretty specific date.
Yeah.
That they're going back to. So what has Fauci been up to, even pre-COVID, that he could possibly need a pardon for? I saw all of this, and maybe I'm just being a partisan, but maybe not. I saw all of this as a blatant admission of guilt. Like, you did it. There's been one, as somebody who's been involved in the pardon process, there's been one preemptive pardon in the history of the country. One. And that was Richard Nixon. And even at that time, they're like, well, a pardon is usually for a crime that you've committed. And what they said at that time was, well, he admitted that he did it in his statement to the public. So we're pardoning him for the crime that he admitted to doing. In this case, with Fauci and the J6ers, which we could get to because they destroyed all the evidence and testimony and everything that they collected during that process. And Fauci, there's not a crime. What is the crime? What are we pardoning them for exactly?
Well, it's very deliberate. Like you said, the 2014 time, that why go back to 2014? Why not go back to the 80s during the AIDS crisis? Why not just his entire life? Like, why, right. What's special about that day? And we all know that Joe Biden has no fucking clue that he did this.
No.
Who did this? I don't know. Maybe Trump could, in the spirit of healing the country and erasing these divides, these political divides that we have, he could be just totally transparent and release all communication about these pardons. That Biden didn't do this shit. There's got to be emails, memos, right?
Yeah, there's got to be something.
Are we gonna get that? No, because nothing ever happens.
Oh, come on! You're such a cynic.
There's definitely not emails or a paper trail. These people are not stupid. We're talking about the highest levels of government. These conversations were not happening over email or note.
I mean, I don't know if you're aware of all of the emails and stuff like that between Fauci and
but what you're talking about is the pardons, which is them coordinating that. And if you think that he actually did something illegal and they were coordinating pardons for that reason, then that's not going to be in writing.
It's going to be somewhere.
And you're talking about them not doing it outside of the realm of the president. I mean, I think you're saying it was all phone calls and in-person meetings and never anything ever. I mean, if he's not running the country, all you got to do is just go in there and this is the list. I don't think it took that much coordination.
So you're saying that Biden just off the top of here's the list, pardon them, and that's it?
I'm agreeing with you that he probably was not involved in it. But what I'm saying is that the people who are, I think, know a bit better than that. And because he was not involved in it, made sure that was not going to be in writing.
There's some paper trail, but I think Charles is right that whatever the offense or possible offense or the reasoning for why they chose the 2014 date in the case of Anthony Fauci is probably not in those written communications. Of course, there's back and forth emails between White House counsel and the staff about who is on the list, and we got to get these documents to POTUS and stuff like that. But any evidence of wrongdoing probably isn't there. But that doesn't mean that there can't be investigations. That's what a bunch of people on the right are saying, including my favorite senator Rand Paul. This ain't going to stop me from investigating you. Well, this isn't going to stop me from
investigating even harder.
Yeah, you don't get a pardon from subpoenas. You don't get a pardon from a trial. You get a pardon from a crime. So it doesn't stop them from investigating him. And then, so my next question was, and this is kind of to Brad's.
Before we get into the question, I want to point out that we got quite a few people listening live, and I would love to hear from them in the comments.
Yeah, what the heck is happening?
What the heck do you think
pardons,
fellas?
Like how I toned down my language when we had viewers. So Brad always says that progressivism never ends, right? It just keeps going. So isn't the logical next step that the president is going to just pardon people for their lifetime? Isn't that the next thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, progressive, it's in the name. It's the definition of progress. You don't if that's your motto, it's what you live by, it's your political philosophy is progress. What are you progressing towards? If you don't define what you're progressing towards, then it is never ending. And we have Rita says that she hears what?
Rita Lepore.
Okay. I hear Putin's probably going to charge him with crimes against humanity. I think she's referring to Anthony Fauci, and there was some chatter on the social about that this morning that Putin would try to extradite him to Russia to face criminal charges in Russia. I'm not sure what criminal charges he would be facing in Russia, but I would love to see it.
Crimes against humanity. She just said it.
I know, but what crimes against? You can't just say crimes against. What are the crimes? Aren't there crimes? Isn't there a definition? Like, what is the?
That is the crime. Crimes against humanity.
Okay, well, you're a crime against humanity. So yeah, is the next step just pardoning for a lifetime? Yeah, probably. I don't know if that's going to happen, like when that's going to happen, but I would not be surprised when it does. And we're going to be on this podcast, and we're going to be talking about it, and y'all are going to look back and say, "Gosh, Brad was right," and it won't be the first time, and it won't be the last.
Yeah, well, it will be the first because I don't remember us ever saying that. So I'm gonna pivot us because Biden wasn't the only one doing the pardoning this week. Trump announced some pardons. Let's see if you guys have some consistency in your arguments here.
It's different situations, but go on.
So Trump always also used the pardon power. The first thing he did was pardon 1,500-ish J6 prisoners. And then he pardoned Ross Ulbricht, which I know Charles has opinions about. And then finally, he pardoned some religious protesters who were protesting outside of an abortion clinic. I think that's the details of the thing. What do you guys think of that? We'll start with Brad.
I'm actually related to Ross Ulbricht.
Oh yeah, I know his mom.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think it's through marriage on my dad's side somehow, but I think that I'm related to him. My brother told me that this week, and I was like, no fucking way. What do I think about the J6 pardons? Yeah, I think that they were railroaded by the system, and I think they deserve a pardon. My understanding is they were treated quite poorly.
Every single one of them?
Every single one, to the last man, you know?
They all deserve pardons, no, just blanket or like
just blanket pardons, buddy, all of them, and their family, just in case.
Preemptive pardons.
2014 until now. Yeah, I think that. I mean, does every single one of them? I don't know enough about every single individual case. I think that these people deserve pardons more than Anthony Fauci. The weight of their potential crimes is much less than Anthony Fauci. So yeah, I can be a little inconsistent, if you will, Michael, in my arguments by saying this is not the same situation. You know, the guy was the officer that shot Ashley Babbitt. He got a pardon. You know, sure, I don't know. Like, what are they? What were their crimes? What were they? They were never charged with insurrection, as far as I know. What were their crimes?
Nobody was.
Right. So I don't know. I have no problem with that. I'd be happy to change my mind. I'm open. I'm an open book.
Charles disagrees.
Where'd that come from?
I can see skeptical all over your face.
I mean, a little bit. I think leading up to that, there was an interview. I believe it was maybe not Sunday. I don't know when it was, but very recently, within the week before inauguration, where they were asking JD Vance about the pardons, and he said there would be no blanket pardons. They would be going through each one of them, and some of them weighed differently because of what happened. And so I thought that's what would happen. No, I don't believe in blanket anything. Like, go through each one of them, and I'm sure you will find one. Huh?
You do believe in blanket things.
Like what?
Housing policy.
Yep. Blanket and land reform.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you do. 100%. Go on.
I 100% don't.
You're 100% fine with the state of Texas passing blanket land reform use for all.
When did I say that?
You do. You support it. You're on the freaking board of the people that are trying to do it.
Give me one example of what you're talking about.
ADUs. Minimum lot size. ADUs.
Minimum lot size is not a blanket policy. It's giving range. It's saying this is the floor. I mean, this is the limit in which the city can do, and then beyond that, that's it. It's not saying you have to have minimum lot sizes of 750 square feet.
Blanket reform. Go on.
It's not blanket though. That's the thing. It still gives range.
All right, we'll get into housing. We'll get into housing policy when that stuff heats up in the text ledge.
They should be viewed individually and in and of their own, and then merits considered, and then I'm going
to clip this. I'm going to clip all of this for when I testify at the state house against you on housing reform. I'm going to clip it.
He's serious.
And so that's how I feel about that.
Do we have any evidence that any of the blanket J6 pardons, and I do want to get to Ross Ulbricht because I want to argue with Charles, but do we have any evidence that that any of the pardons that were given were maybe not reviewed, because I saw 1,500 pardons, and then there were a handful or a couple handfuls of commutations. And I was under the impression that the commutations were for people who maybe had altercations with police officers, who had physical violence or something like that. And the 1,500 people were more like the trespassing on the Capitol grounds, which they shouldn't have gone to jail for in the first place.
Isn't that evidence of individual review happening at some level?
Certainly at some level, there was a decision made to give at least a select handful of people a different remedy.
Right. So they would have had to look at every individual and see who's who. I'm not saying that they went super beyond that. Maybe that's all they did, but that would be evidence of individual review to some extent.
Yep.
So what was your question?
There wasn't a question.
Oh, okay.
I was just making a comment. Okay. Ross Ulbricht. Ross Ulbricht, just a little background. He was the founder of Silk Road, which is a website back in the, early 2010s that allowed people to buy and sell goods, some of them illegal, some of them legal, online, using Bitcoin. I think it was just Bitcoin at the time. The FBI shut down the website and went on this huge manhunt. There's like a big documentary about it called Silk Road. He gets put in jail for creating the website for a life sentence, 3 life sentences, no option of parole. And he was 28 at the time. He was just released after 10 years. He's 38 years old now. Trump pardoned him. It was a promise he made to the crypto people, and promises made, promises kept. Isn't that the slogan these days? Charles, tell me what you think after you did all that additional research.
I mean, I think it's great. I think Ross Ulbricht, however you pronounce his last name, deserves to be pardoned, just like everybody else that's pardoned. No, I don't know how I feel about this, honestly. I'm split. I think 3 life sentences is a lot. There was also a lot of human and sex trafficking on Silk Road. And I'm split. I don't know. If is there human and sex trafficking on, I don't know, like a web, I'm sure there's a website or like, right.
StreamYard?
What is it?
StreamYard?
Sure. Should the owners get 3 life sentences? I mean, there's only so much you can control, but it's, I don't know. I don't know. I'm split on it. Well, but 3 life sentences is very excessive. I can say that much. That's crazy.
I think that the argument would be that he created a website with specific intent for these things to happen, right? Like there were tabs like for drugs and, sex trafficking and all that sort of stuff. That he created. And I think one person, someone could say, well, this stuff happens on Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook or X or whatever. And it's a very well-known problem, but yet it still happens. Why aren't these people getting 2 life sentences plus 40 years? Well, I think the difference is that they're not necessarily they're not creating like there's no Instagram button for fentanyl, right? You got to kind of know the lingo for it to happen, or for CP. There's not a CP button. But I don't know if this was a real life flea market and I advertised it as, come here and sell kids and drugs. I'm just setting up the place for you to do it. Wouldn't that be illegal for me? Isn't that bad for me to do? Do I deserve 2 life sentences plus 40 years? Maybe not, but kind of seems like that's not a legal thing to do. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I don't know enough about it. Michael, you're about to educate us.
No, not really. I think it was less explicit than what you're describing. I think all sorts of crimes happen over all sorts of platforms, whether it's intentional for Instagram to allow sex trafficking or not. It happens on there. And should Instagram be responsible criminally for what happens on its platform? I don't think so. And I think in the same case, even if it was created for the specific purpose of allowing illicit things to happen, I still don't think the person that created it should be responsible for the crimes committed on it, because he didn't commit any of the crimes. He just created a platform for them to be
committed,
for it to be available. So I don't know why could he be charged with conspiracy? I don't know. I don't think that fits. I think he was a kid. He saw an opportunity. He made a website. People did a bunch of bad things. and his sentence was way too long. Should he have gotten no sentence at all? I don't think that's what I'm saying. I don't think that's what I'm arguing. But life sentence plus 2 or 3 life sentence plus 40 years, yeah, that's excessive. And 10 years in prison is probably enough.
I just think of all the people who were in jail because they, have an establishment and they let, the mafia use it as a meeting place or something like that, and who get caught up in racketeering charges or something, or people who have a vehicle and they let that vehicle be used for some sort of drug transaction, even if they're not involved in it, and that vehicle seized and then they're arrested. I just think about people like that. That's what I get frustrated about with a lot of things, not just this, but overall, is that we put a lot of focus on the ones that are famous. And then we forget about a lot of the other ones. And I don't mean us on this podcast. I mean, I'm even equating this back to when Trump was going through his trial, and suddenly everybody's like, the criminal justice system's 2-tiered. Well, it's been 2-tiered. This isn't new. Yeah. So I guess that's part of my hesitancy to appreciate his release. But I agree, that time that's excessive by any means.
But don't take it out on Ross Ulbricht. Take it out on the conspiracy laws that put people like Alice Johnson in jail for a life sentence for a minor part in a conspiracy. That's not a problem with Ross Ulbricht. That's a problem with the sentencing guidelines and the conspiracy laws and the racketeering laws that allow prosecutors to basically threaten these people with huge sentences if they don't take a plea deal so they can get another conviction on their resume. So on Ross, it seemed pretty clear to me that he had served enough time for what he did, and I'm glad that he's out.
Yeah, Ross Ulbricht, if you're watching this, we'd love to have you on the show. We'd love to, to talk to you about your experience.
We might be able to make that happen.
If we're related.
Yeah, we could probably make that happen.
I don't know for sure if we're related, but I think we are.
Well, you should
we're going to find out.
Before he sues you for defamation.
Interesting. I mean, he's the one that was. Why would that? Wouldn't it go the other way?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I'll take your word for it.
So, anything on the other pardons that Trump did, or is that good?
The fuck was that, Charles?
Flashlight.
My cop light.
Your what?
My cop light.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on the pardons? I don't think so. No.
Who do you want to see Trump pardon next? Go.
I see a pardon next.
I don't have anybody.
Ed Snowden. Let's go.
Yeah, Ed Snowden would be good. That makes sense. Of course. Yeah, pardon Ed Snowden for sure. I don't know why that hasn't happened yet. He should.
Anybody else
at the very top of his list? Charles.
Yeah.
Who's that guy down in Houston that got in all that trouble?
Busby?
No.
Jay-Z?
No. I mean, yes, but not. That's not who I'm thinking
all
of.
that trouble. I don't know.
Former U.S. Congressman.
God,
what's his name?
Yeah. Oh man.
Just skip it. Who cares?
Skip it.
Yeah, I can't remember. Famous case.